Hello, and welcome to Vision Denial and World Watch 2022. My name is Sam, and if those of you who are new here, I have watched every single playoff of 2022. Yes, every single one of them, even that one. Notably, this particular series we were covering the summer of 2022 on our anticipation and preparation for Worlds. And this you have stumbled upon, or you are a regular subscriber and watcher, to the Meet the Teams portion, where I will take a look at every 24 team, their strengths, weaknesses, play styles, notable quirks, interesting things to look ahead, all in the attempts to at least teach some people who don't watch certain regions what to expect from their teams, or from the teams that are going. That said, there are two caveats to really put forward. First caveat: a lot of the things that I'm going to be talking about are data-driven. I will put a link down below to the Google Docs of all of the data I have aggregated all in one nice spot. All of the data comes from the LoL fandom, Wikipedia, and from the goal.gg website, both of which have very different focuses to their data points, and both are necessary for these kinds of videos to work. That said, there's a limitation to some of this data because the LPL doesn't send the data as consistently as the other regions, and this is something you'll find with any particular data point for LoL esports globally. The LPL will still be missing some things regarding plates, drakes at 15 minutes, and heralds. A lot of the early game is not there. That and everything relating to vision. Second thing that I have to point out, a lot of the emerging regions, specifically Oceania, Turkey, Brazil, Latin America, and Japan, their teams will have some inflated stats in their favor. That being in mind, when we're looking at their stats, a lot of them will look good, notably the Chiefs and Detonation Focus Me. So some of the stats for every team has to be taken with a grain of salt of either being maybe stronger than expected or weaker than expected by quite a bit, notably because of this kind of inflation of statistics. When you're studying data, this is the kind of adjustments you need to do. That said, team-based data will look skewed. Individual data for each player's less so, because of the kinds of data points that they keep track of. All of that to say is that a lot of the notes that I've taken are using data points that have been collected that you can all enjoy for free down below, or in the various websites that I mentioned, but taking into account a lot of the personal notes that I use in conjunction with this data to show you what to expect with these teams. Without further ado, let's take a look at this video's team. I don't know. This is a pre-recorded message. Let's take a look. Let's meet T1. T1 is the second seed out of the LCK and also the second team to qualify for Worlds after defeating Damwon Kia 3-2. I do want to preface a couple of things before talking about the coaches. It was announced fairly recently. Specifically, it was released on, oh goodness gracious, the 5th of September, that there would be some coaching changes. So currently, the head coach of T1 is Bengi, as Polt, their previous head coach, had moved to just being general manager, while Moment stays with his coach and they have another coach aside with them, Sky. Not much to say much about Bengi as being one of the only two players in the world to have 3 world championship titles under his belt, with one role in one team. Him and Faker go way back, being part of the original 2013 lineup. He rejoined as a coach not that long ago, specifically, in the 2020 season, and had stayed with pretty much with this organization since its beginning, having only a brief period for the 2017 season where he went to Vici Gaming. I don't know what much more to expect out of Bengi as a coach, but Moment, however, has been part of the coaching scene since the 2020 season with T1 and has done wonders with them. Their drafting has gotten better. Their application of late game macro shot calling is much better. They have a larger focus around plates and heralds. A lot of focus towards how to apply map pressure and gold accumulation, but it's inconsistent. And that's the whole thing. Their early game is super inconsistent, and whether or not they're able to follow through the late game and have the same kind of macro control, using the same kind of vision denial that they usually excel in, is really up to if another team is even properly equipped to go through with their early game plan. When it was with Gen G, they got absolutely massacred because they were much better at controlling the space and the tempo of the game than many of their other counterparts. This is not the same T1 of spring. This is a T1 that has had to really work to get where they are at this moment. Meet T1's top laner, Zeus. Zeus has been a part of the T1 organization since the 2020 season as either the academy or rookies, and joined into the main roster for the 2021 season, flipping between main roster to substitute. For the 2022 season, they've stuck with him till the end. And frankly, he's fairly solid as a team fighter. They have this weird, awkward relationship, unfortunately, where his identity seems to be split push and team fight consistently. And honestly, the champions that he has going for him does a good job at least mixing the two. Gwen, Gangplank, and Gnar double both as 1-3-1 or 1-4 options, as well as solid team fighter and zone tools. The difference here, however, is that his stats seem to be fairly middling, as T1 seems to teeter between full map control and necessary team fight around at least Baron super frequently. And as a matter of fact, Zeus is more than willing to do so, fairly consistently holding up one of the largest gold shares amongst his contemporaries, the largest kill share amongst his contemporaries, and a high kill participation amongst his contemporaries. And with his pretty large champion pool, the kinds of champions he play primarily rely on being able to control side lanes and flank eventually. Very rarely does he play team fighting champions and just purely team fighting champions. And when he does, he excels in it. It's just a matter of seeing how many people can shut him down before he can really make trouble around the rift. Meet T1's jungler, Oner. Oner's been part of the organization since the spring portion or the summer portion of the 2020 season with its academy and rookies, before being part of the main roster starting in the 2021 season. And honestly, I'm going to put it straight right here. Oner is likely one of, if not the best junglers in this tournament. We're frequently getting top 5 or top 3 across the board with the stats. He's not only aggressively ganking, incredible at team fighting, sets up his team in phenomenal ways around neutral objectives. He holds high gold count. It is usually expected that a jungler will either be solid at ganking and fighting or really good at gold accumulation before aiding the team in neutral objectives. Very rarely do you see somebody excel at both at such a consistent manner. Oner is very scary at controlling the pace of the game, where your jungler just feels like he is just following. Second fiddle, always waiting just to see where Oner's going to go next, and you only have to just kind of predict, and Oner is already a step ahead of you, having predicted what you were going to try to predict. And frankly, I'm excited to see how Oner does on the international stage. Does he keep up this kind of pressure and stay so consistent? Or does he kind of falter? I'm pretty sure he'll be consistent, but it'll be really interesting to see how the other junglers from other regions find out what is so special about Oner. Let's meet T1's mid laner. Or really, is meet even a good word for the most decorated player in history? Come on. It's Faker Playmaker. Let's what's more to say other than really don't get your hopes too high? I do mean that sincerely. Faker, unfortunately, across the board has stats that really lie below average or fairly in the bottom five for the most part. And amongst a myriad of very stacked mid laners this year, like the roster for mid laners is terrifying. Faker seems to not stick out as being one of the more prominent ones. That said, he is one of the more flexible ones, spotting in the third most champion played under his belt, and he has played everything under the sun historically. His experience, his demeanor, his clutch factor, all alone, you regularly see Faker is always just in his eyes, in his plays. You can tell just with the mouse presses. He's always looking for an angle. He is so efficient at finding any avenue for his team to just find that one moment. And at any time, Faker may seem like he is not quite to form. And then he'll catch you. A stray charm, a shuffle out of nowhere, a glacial prison, or maybe just a Galio taunt out of nowhere. And all of a sudden you've lost the game. Because Faker is clutch factor defined. You don't get this many titles for nothing. Meet T1's bot laner, Gumayusi. Gumayusi has been part of the T1 organization since about 2019 season, being a substitute for the most part, and going in and out of being part of the main roster to substitute, depending on what's going on. And honestly, ever since keeping him as a main roster in the 2021 season, he has been fantastic. Now, compared to his contemporaries who are part of the very stacked roster of bot laners, he figures average to slightly below average overall. But one thing that he has going for him that many of the others do not is a very large, flexible pool to work with. And this isn't one of those things where he plays a lot of champions just once. No, he has a large breadth of champions to work with. Gumayusi allows himself to stay consistent with a number of champions that allow him to really thrive. Any given particular avenue, especially since some of stats are really lowered a bit from a lot of Senna play, gives you an indication that the gold share that T1 input into him, the amount of kill share that he has and the kill participation, is not coming from nowhere. T1 recognized that Gumayusi is able to play different styles effortlessly, unlike the way I said the word. It is one way to look at him and say, oh yeah, he's about average to below average compared to everybody else, but that is a very easy way to underestimate him. He has this way of going about the game that will surprise you in many team fights. It's just a matter of, does his team have the time to set him up? He does require quite a bit of time to get there. Meet T1's support player, Keria. Mad Genius Keria. Having made his debut with Dragon X during the 2020 season, he really made a name for himself for his outlandish support picks. And honestly, I love it. Keria has the most champion picks amongst all players. And honestly, when looking at his stats here, it is very understandable to say, well, okay, well, what's the big deal? He's got probably a lot of one-off champions. And I'd say, yeah, he does have a lot of one-off champions. But there's something underlying about what's being told in the story of Keria with these stats. His low gold per minute but his high CS per minute shows that there's already a wide variance in terms of what is going on. He's not just playing a large amount of different enchanters. He's playing also a wide variety of re-engage, tanks, engage options. Heck, even just like your regular solo lane champions. There's a Rumble support in the list there. He has a low kill participation, and not because he's not participating, but because he has champions that require a large amount of roaming all over the map. So he's usually out of a lot of different kinds of fights that could be happening around the map. Keria right here exemplifies the essence of T1. Be prepared for flexibility, wild drafts, but they will be so cohesive you do not understand how you would really approach it. It's just fucking awesome. All in all, T1 are a excellent case study on how to approach flexible gameplay while also still specializing in one particular aspect. They have a very large focus around the top side of the map with heralds and barons, and specifically during the mid to late game stages. If they survive the early game or are able to proceed with that, then they're able to use side lane pressures to split the team up and force them to make really rough decisions. And that specialization can be punished if it wasn't for the fact that T1 show they have an incredible ability to, flip the script and choose a totally different playstyle when necessary. The fact that most of, if all of their players actually have such a wide breadth and champion pool impresses me to no degree, and that they have such a high, or they have like a solid win rate and are able to qualify here, just tells you that they should be taken incredibly seriously. This is an organization that has had not the greatest luck in terms of international competition. Whenever you think they're back, they kind of fumble, and that's mostly what I'm going to be expecting, is that they're lightly going to fumble, but I don't think that they are to be counted out completely. They will surprise people, they will bring their A game, and they have a number of players who are clutch factors and insanely talented. So T1 are not the favorites of the tournament, but they are darn near top 8, almost guaranteed in my books. So watch out, Worlds. Well, those are at least my thoughts based off of the games that I've seen, or like all the playoffs that I've watched, my notes, and the different stats that I have over here. I want to hear what you think. Do you think T1 is worth all the hype of their history? Do you think they're going to be really interesting, or do you think it's just going to be another year of disappointments? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. Also, I'll have a bunch of videos that editing me are going to wonder, why do I point this way? Where I've got the different playoffs that I've watched and reviewed, my thoughts over the last couple of weeks and a half, or month and a half, and when I was watching all of them, all of the other teams that have qualified, and how T1 made it here. Like, just the playoffs of the LCK. And if you like this kind of content, leave a like and subscribe down below, and I really appreciate all of you who are watching. With that, I'll see you next time.